I'm 33, and I just got the biggest break of my career, and somehow it's turning into the scariest, most surreal moment of my life. I've been working as a project manager at the same mid-sized company for nearly a decade. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, and I've always been good at it. I like structure. I like making things run smoothly. I've spent years climbing the ladder, surviving layoffs, pulling long hours, and putting up with egos bigger than the actual budget. You know the type. So when I got a call from a major tech firm out in Colorado offering me a director position, with better pay, better benefits, and actual flexibility, I was stunned. I hadn't even applied. Someone I worked with years ago must have referred me, and suddenly there it was. The kind of opportunity people dream of. The interview process was intense, but I nailed it. When I got the offer, I cried. My husband, Marcus, he's 35, was the first person I told. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 10. He hugged me, said he was proud, said I deserved it, and for a while, I believed he meant it. But he didn't ask any real questions, didn't talk about logistics or moving, didn't even ask about the salary until I brought it up. I chalked it up to shock, or maybe him just needing time to process everything. We lived in Georgia, and Colorado wasn't just a new job, it was a new life. Over the next few days, I started researching apartments, local neighborhoods, schools, in case we wanted kids, even hiking spots. Marcus loves to hike. I assumed we'd be doing this together, that we'd be sitting down every night and planning our future in this new place. But instead, Marcus started acting weird. Not distant exactly, more like overly attentive. He was suddenly doing more around the house, cooking dinner, buying little gifts, compliment. At first, I thought maybe he was just trying to show support, but it started to feel off. He was overcompensating for something. Then he started avoiding any actual conversations about the move. Every time I brought it up, what we'd do with the house, his job, the timeline, he deflected, said it was too soon to think about, said he didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, said we had time, but we didn't. The company wanted me to start in 5 weeks, so finally, last weekend I sat him down and said we needed to get serious. I asked him what his thoughts were on moving, on leaving his job, on starting over somewhere new. I was excited, but also nervous, and I really needed to know we were on the same page. He just stared at me for a long time. Then he said, "Yeah, about that," and everything started unraveling. When Marcus said, "Yeah, about that," my whole body froze. The way he said it, it wasn't hesitation, it wasn't nerves, it was guilt. He looked everywhere but at me. I could already feel my heart pounding, like my body had figured it out before my brain had a chance to catch up. He told me he'd also been thinking about a change, except his change wasn't about us moving to Colorado together. It was about him moving out. He started telling me how he'd been confused for a while, and how the thought of moving made him realize he wasn't sure this marriage was working, that he felt like he was losing himself in our routine, that he needed time to figure out who he was again. I swear I was just sitting there like someone had unplugged me. He said he wasn't planning to say anything yet, but when I brought up the move, it forced his hand. I remember staring at him like I was watching someone else speak through his face. The man I knew, my partner, my teammate, was talking about leaving me while I was planning a new life for both of us. I asked him if there was someone else. He said no, but he said it too quickly. I asked him if he was unhappy. He said yes, but he didn't want to hurt me. Which is rich, because dropping that on me 5 weeks before I was supposed to uproot everything for a new job, that felt like the dictionary definition of hurting someone. I couldn't think, couldn't even cry. My brain just locked up. I stood up and walked out of the room like a ghost. He didn't follow me. The rest of the day, we barely spoke. I kept waiting for him to come in, to say it was all a mistake, to beg for forgiveness, something, but nothing came. I ended up sleeping in the guest room. I laid there staring at the ceiling for hours, feeling like I'd just slipped into an alternate version of my life, one where everything looked the same, but none of it was real. Then, around 3 a.m., I made a decision. I was going to Colorado, with or without him. But the thing is, this wasn't over, not even close. Because the next day something happened that made me realize this wasn't some spontaneous, midlife clarity moment. Marcus hadn't been confused. He'd been planning this for months. The morning after Marcus dropped the bombshell, I woke up groggy, still in yesterday's clothes, and for a moment I forgot everything. You know that split second between sleep and memory? I had that. Then it all came crashing back. I found Marcus in the kitchen, making breakfast like it was any other day. He asked if I wanted coffee, just casual, like he hadn't said the night before that he might be leaving me. I told him no, and walked out. I sat in the living room for a while, trying to make sense of how fast things had shifted. I didn't even know where to start. Call my sister? I couldn't even form full thoughts, just fragments of what ifs and how did I miss this. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a calendar alert I'd set months ago to remind Marcus to renew his car registration, something I always had to stay on top of, and suddenly it clicked. If he was really thinking about leaving me, why was he still relying on me for all these everyday things? And more importantly, how long had he actually been planning this? That's when the suspicious part of my brain kicked in. I grabbed my laptop and opened up our shared Dropbox. We'd been using it since our honeymoon to organize house stuff, documents, receipts, travel plans. Nothing too sensitive, but enough that we both accessed it all the time. But something caught my eye, a folder I hadn't seen before. It was buried under an old subfolder labeled Home Reno Quotes, which was funny because we hadn't done any Renos in over 2 years. Inside that folder was one called Plan B. I froze. My heart was racing before I even opened it. Inside were documents, PDFs, screenshots, notes. I opened one and my stomach dropped. It was a lease application, not for a place in our city, but for an apartment in North Carolina. Another document? A job offer letter for a position he'd already accepted. Not pending, not maybe. It was signed. He was leaving. He had already planned to move. Not with me, not for my job. He had his own move planned. Out of state. Different direction entirely. And here's the worst part. The start date on his job offer? Exactly 2 days after my new job in Colorado was supposed to begin. I just sat there staring at the screen. My ears were ringing. I felt sick. This wasn't him being confused. This wasn't a man caught off guard by my job offer. This was someone who had been laying the groundwork for his own escape, quietly, methodically, while I was daydreaming about the future we'd build together. And then something in the folder made it worse. So much worse, because there was a photo, not of him, but of her. At first, the photo didn't mean much. Just a casual picture of a woman sitting at a cafe table, sunglasses in her hair, smiling at the camera like it was just another Sunday morning. But Marcus had saved it, named it, dated it. The file was called April, Charlotte, and the timestamp? 3 weeks ago. That's when everything flipped. Because 3 weeks ago, Marcus had told me he was visiting his brother for a guy's weekend, somewhere in Florida. I even packed him a little overnight bag and waved him off like an idiot, thinking he was taking a breather from work stress. Turns out he was in Charlotte, scouting apartments, and spending time with her. I opened the next few files and there she was again. Her name popped up on a rental reference. Her initials on a dinner reservation confirmation. There were screenshots of text exchanges, blurry but readable, saved in the same folder. Some of them were between Marcus and someone labeled as A. One message stood out, burned into my brain. It's all set. Once she moves for the new job, I'll be out within a week. She won't see it coming. That's what he wrote. About me. Like I was some obstacle to quietly sidestep. My chest was pounding so hard it physically hurt. I felt heat rush up my neck, and for a second I thought I might black out. I just kept reading. One awful breadcrumb after another. There was nothing sexual in the texts I found. At least, not the ones saved. But there was something worse in a way. Intimacy. The way he spoke to her, like they were already a team. Like she was in on the secret and I was the clueless outsider. The more I read, the clearer it became. He wasn't trying to figure things out. He had already made his choice. This wasn't a crisis of identity. This was a strategy. And the woman in the photo? Her name is April, and she lives in Charlotte, the same city where Marcus had accepted the new job. I don't know how long he's known her or how they met, but from the planning, from the tone, from how careful he was hiding it, it wasn't new. He was going to wait until I left for Colorado, and then vanish. No fight, no closure, no explanation. Just gone. That realization hit like a punch to the chest. Not just because of the betrayal, but because of how easily he seemed ready to discard our life together. 10 years. 10 actual years. And I almost let him do it. I didn't scream. I didn't storm into the kitchen and demand answers. I didn't throw my laptop at his head, though for a few seconds I seriously considered it. Instead, I made a cup of tea. I sat in silence for a long time, letting the steam fog up my glasses while Marcus hummed to himself in the other room, like we were still a functioning couple. I didn't want to react in a way that gave him control over the narrative. He was prepared for a conversation where he'd get to cry, maybe spin the story, maybe blame me. I wasn't going to give him that, so I planned something else. I took screenshots of everything, all the messages, the emails, the job offer, even the rental documents and the photo of April. I saved them to a private cloud and emailed a copy to myself. Then I backed it all up on a flash drive and locked it in my car, just in case. I didn't want to take any chances. Then I waited. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. That night, I told Marcus I'd made a decision about the Colorado job. He perked up immediately, and for a split second I think he believed I was going to turn it down. He started acting warmer, talking about how things might work themselves out, how life has a way of sorting itself. I nodded, told him I wanted to go out to dinner and talk about the future. He agreed, picked the place himself, his favorite little steakhouse, where we'd celebrated our last anniversary. The irony didn't escape me. We got there, ordered drinks, made small talk. He looked relaxed, like he thought this was all going to resolve quietly and painlessly, like he had successfully manipulated the timing, and now he could coast his way into his new life. That's when I handed him the envelope. Inside were printouts. Not everything, just enough. The lease agreement with April's name, his signed job offer in Charlotte, the message about me not seeing it coming. He didn't open it right away, just stared at it like it was glowing. And when he did finally flip it open, his face changed so fast it almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then he looked at me. I didn't say a word. I just watched. And in that moment, he realized the truth. I knew everything. But he didn't know the half of it. Because I hadn't just been collecting evidence. I had already taken my next step, and it was something he never saw coming. After I handed Marcus the envelope, he didn't say anything. He just stared at it, like the pages might set themselves on fire. I didn't give him the chance to lie. The check had already cleared for a new apartment, in Colorado, in my name only. What Marcus didn't know was that while he was planning his little escape, I'd already accepted the job offer and asked the company if they'd cover relocation immediately. They said yes. The movers were booked. My lease started next week. I was leaving. Not for him. Not because I was running, but because I deserved better, and I wanted him to watch me walk out. So when the waitress dropped the check and he finally asked what I was going to do, I smiled. I told him, nothing. I'm just leaving first. 3 days after I moved into my new apartment in Colorado, I got a message request on Instagram. It was from April. At first, I almost ignored it. I didn't want anything to do with her, but curiosity won. It wasn't what I expected. She said she was sorry, that she didn't know I existed. At least not until a week ago. She said Marcus told her he was single, recently out of a long relationship, said he was starting fresh. She found out the truth when he got weird about his phone. So she did some digging, found our wedding photos, found me, and then found out I'd already moved. She told me she ended things with him that same day. I didn't believe her at first. But then she sent a screenshot. It was Marcus begging her to just give him time and not throw it all away. The timestamp? The night I left Georgia. He was still trying to juggle both of us. April told me she was disgusted, that she felt used, that she hoped I was okay. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen, realizing I had been sleeping next to a stranger for years. I was starting to feel normal again. The new job was amazing. My boss actually respected me. My apartment had huge windows and zero memory. I was sleeping better, eating better, breathing better. Then, 5 days after April's message, I got a package. No return address. Just my name, handwritten. Inside was a wooden box. Nothing fancy, just plain oak with a cheap little clasp. I opened it slowly, half expecting something stupid or dramatic. Instead, it was worse. Inside were old photos of me and Marcus, vacations, birthday, our wedding day, all of them cut down the middle. Only his half remained. Tucked underneath was a letter, one sentence. You left first, but this isn't finished. I didn't know if it was supposed to scare me, make me come. I just knew one. He didn't take the loss well. A feeling he wasn't done. The box shook me, but I didn't let it. I threw it in the closet and went on with. But 2 days. She looked on. Said someone HR with it. Accusations that I had lied on my resume, exaggerated and wasn't who I. It was so sloppy. None of it was. And luckily, certificate when I got home and access. Someone had tried to get into the attempt from a Georgia base. I knew exactly who it was. Marcus couldn't stand that I landed on my feet. He wasn't trying to win me back. He was trying to pull me back down. This wasn't heartbreak. This was war. I knew I had to end it. Not emotionally. I'd already done that. I mean, truly end it. No more open doors. No more chances to get under my skin. So I hired a lawyer. I'd filed for divorce weeks ago. But now we went deeper. I compiled everything. Screenshots, messages, the letter in the box, even the HR incident. We sent a cease and desist. Official, legal, a line in the sand. But I wasn't done. There was still one thing left that Marcus didn't expect me to touch. His job. Turns out the company in Charlotte that hired him, the one he was so eager to run to, I found out through a contact that April had already reached out to them anonymously, sent them screenshots of his messages about getting rid of me and starting clean, and they had concerns. Serious ones. Apparently they hadn't finalized onboarding yet. The offer had been signed, but not fully processed. So I added to it, not in a spiteful way, just the truth. I sent them a single email. You may want to ask Marcus why his wife of 6 years left him days before your job offer was accepted. There's more to the story. No accusations, no threats. Just a flashlight in the dark. 3 days later, Marcus lost the job. He called me. I didn't answer. He emailed me. I blocked him. He tried to get April to message me again. She didn't. This time, I really left first. Not just the house, not just the state, but the life he tried to trap me in. The game he was playing, I finished it. He lost everything he tried to secretly build, because he underestimated the person he was trying to leave behind. And me? I'm finally free. And I didn't just move on. I moved up.